Hi, Nick.
Hi, Danny. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining
Well,
me all the way, all the way from LA. Much appreciated.
you're welcome.
Yes, so welcome to Actors Making It. I am super keen to hear all about your journey. I was having a look at your IMDb earlier, and obviously you've been kind of grafting away at tapping away at the industry for a while.
He's been around for a while.
So
I did my first commercial when I was 8 years old.
okay,
Yeah.
what was that?
It was for a housing estate, like a new housing estate in the 80s. And then I did one for a resort group, and I just was addicted. I mean, I knew I was going to be an actor when I was 6 years old, and I saw my sister's drama group do a play, and I'm sat there going, I just told my mom, I want to do that. I want to do that. And it was I mean, my sister and I were always putting on little shows at home and for our grandparents. You know, lots of people talk about how they would charge their neighbors to come. I mean, we were those kids, and we created radio plays of our own that we used to record onto cassettes. We'd record over my pops, over my pops' favorite cassettes. We'd get busted and in so much trouble. But and my sister was always making me be the princess and her be the hero. Yeah, so some things have never changed.
Wow, at such an early age. There's so many people that I've spoken to, or kind of interviews that I've heard with actors, and they talk about the fact that I was the kid that was putting on performances. I never fucking did that. Like, that is not something I ever did as a kid. Like, I knew I wanted to be an actor from a young age, but absolutely was never the kid that was like, let me put on the show for you, Nana Pop.
Yeah, I think lots of people, there are, I don't know that there are two like definitive types of actors, but there's the extrovert actor and there is the introvert actor.
Yeah.
And I've seen, you know, your introvert actor, that's a kid that actually probably spent more time reading books and disappearing into fantasy lands and imagining these characters and creating stories and all of those kinds of things, but was probably very much, you know, in their own world. Whereas I was definitely more of the extrovert that was out there putting on the shows and playing pretend and dressing up and wanting to bring people together through storytelling, connecting people and playing characters and going boldly into those imagined worlds with other people.
So first commercial at 8 years old, then, do you think if you knew that you wanted to be an actor at that point, did you have, was it less like, that's it, that's all I'm going to focus on? Like, did you have that focus at that age?
Yeah, but I was living in a regional area that didn't have a lot of accessibility to youth theatre groups and things like that. So by the time I was a teenager, we had a local television station and a local radio station. By the time I was 14, I had my own radio show and had started a youth theatre group with a wonderful local teacher. So yeah, I was determined. And I was driving down from Coffs Harbour to Sydney for auditions and things like that, and taking summer camps. And, you know, as soon as I left school, I was in Nida's Young Actors Studio and all of that kind of stuff. It was very clear. I was directing the Rocker Stedford. I was in, you know, all the plays that we did at school in the local theatre festivals. I was the school captain and SRC president and running the yearbook. Like, I wanted to bring people together. I wanted to put on shows. I wanted to perform. And I was very determined from a very young age.
Did you have, I guess, an idea of what you were working towards, or what your idea of, like, when I do this, I will have made it?
I think, you know, coming from a regional area, the idea that I might one day either be on Young Talent Time or go to the Logies. And also, I really desperately wanted to be on Neighbours when I was a teenager. It was like, that's what I want to do. I was obsessed with Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan, and to a smaller degree, Guy Pearce and Annie Jones. And I really wanted to be on Neighbours, and I left school and I was in Nida's Young Actors Studio. I started booking gigs straight away, straight out of high school, but I was doing a business degree because everyone said I had to. And it was 1996, and I was on hold for Neighbours and also Home and Away. And I was kind of upset when I got Home and Away instead of Neighbours. I was like, oh, yeah, here I am being offered like a semi-regular role in like a fantastic show, and I was a bit like, oh yeah, but I wanted the other one. But that ended up becoming my apprenticeship in TV, and I'm so grateful for it.
How long were you on Home and Away for?
I was on air from 97 to 98, so
Oh.
not that long. I look, I mean, I don't even know what to believe anymore. I mean, my agent was telling me certain things at the time, and the casting director was saying other things, and then there's what happened. But what I thought was happening was my character was coming back for another 12 months, and I, because they'd offered me a 3-year deal, and I was going to say, oh no, I just want 12 more months, because I'm going to be a serious actor and do all the theatre and go to the West End and all that kind of stuff, which I did want to do, and I did end up doing, but it doesn't work like that. And so that 3-year deal went to a young man named Ryan Quanton, who ended up blowing up on that show and doing amazing things. And I was written out in about 12 weeks, turning into a stalker who flared his nostrils and broke twigs outside Sally's window after beating Heath Ledger up in the surf club.
Have you made it to the Logies yet then?
I've been to the Logies several times, so I have made it.
Made it. Fantastic.
I still haven't been on Neighbours though.
Well,
So,
it's still going.
Dreams could still come true.
100%. Okay, well that's awesome. Has your idea of making it changed now as you've progressed through?
Oh, 100%. The people that I know who are at the top of their game in this field still go through these massive peaks and troughs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm friends with Academy Award winners and Academy Award nominees, and I think, and Tony Award winners. And I think there's something somehow where we sort of come into this business believing that that's actually what the pinnacle is, to be in those mediums and to win those awards, and that's when you've made it. But when you look at the fact that 95% of actors are unemployed at any given time, if you're able to participate in this industry and work as an artist and do what you love, I think you're making it. I've tried to stop. I've tried to actually leave the business a few times because I just needed perspective. I needed an attitude change. I needed space, and I needed life experience in order to bring that to my work. And someone who's only ever worked as an actor and lived that life and hasn't had to struggle to sort of reinvent, to be resilient and resourceful, is in my opinion, is bringing, less humanity to whatever character it is that they're creating. I'm so grateful for the times that I was absolutely on my ass broke in London and having to pivot madly and finding myself amongst people that I never imagined I would, and then hearing their stories and understanding them and developing a stronger sense of empathy. Being a television actor and a television host, and then being the lead in a massive musical, and always having money and always having access to things and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't necessarily make you an asshole, but it doesn't allow you to really appreciate things sometimes if it's always there. And so sometimes you need that perspective, and I'm grateful for that.
I think that's really important for a lot of actors, especially actors starting out, to kind of keep in mind that even though it might be taking a long time, everything that you're going through is building up who you are and the experience you have and what that means for your ability and what truth you can bring to any kind of...
100%. And nothing's ever wasted anyway. There is always something of value in every single experience, even if it feels like shit.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that the emotional access that I have now was not there 15, 20 years ago. Okay, maybe it was there like 15, 20 years ago, but certainly not when I started. I have gone through a lot of things that have really tested me, that have led me to a greater sense of self, but also a greater ability to understand other people. And you need that. If you want to create really informed and layered characters, you have to have the ability to really try and put yourself in those people's shoes. And your imagination is one thing, and that's wonderful to cultivate your imagination through constant curiosity. But having experience and having lived, and what you take away from that, and the scars on your heart and mind and body that you bring into that as well, you know, nothing is wasted there. It all really helps.
You mentioned before, when you were talking about studying, that you did a business degree.
I did not finish that business.
Oh, okay.
I booked a job hosting video hits on Channel 10, and then a little musical tour, and I just thought, bye. And so I deferred for a year with no intention of ever going back. Sure. However, it would not have been wasted to do a business degree. I think that having an entrepreneurial spirit like I do, my mum's calling.
Oh, bless her, mum.
Mum, I can't talk right now. I'm just recording a podcast with Danny Barton. Yeah, you know Danny. Mum says hi.
Hi, Mum.
I'll call you back in an hour. Is that okay? All right. Love you. Bye. She's off to wax some fannies. My mum's a beauty therapist and she's still doing it. She's 70 in December. Oh. And she's still waxing fannies, waxing eyebrows, tinting lashes, doing facials, makeup. She's amazing.
Growing when you're older.
Sorry?
It doesn't stop growing when you're older.
Oh no, quite the opposite.
Well,
I go up there now and she's checking out my ear holes and everything. I'm like, Mum, stop.
So on the business degree thing, because you said you were told that it would be a good idea to do a business degree on top of acting, I'm keen to understand why it was a good idea to do that. Was that because acting wasn't considered a real profession, or was it?
I come from a country town. Nobody in my family had any idea about the business. No one from my school, my year master, my careers advisor, nobody. There was no trajectory of any child from Sawtell, Tormina, New South Wales to become a working actor, much less a famous one. Although now it's interesting, in my sort of peer group where I was growing up, you've got Simone Jade McKinnon, who was, you know, a Logie nominee on McLeod's Daughters for many, many years. She went to my school. There was Charlotte Gregg, who had a really successful career there, and her husband, Wes Carr, who won like Idol. There's Victoria Thane. There's Damon Downey, who was like the lead singer of Sneaky Sound System. He was in my class at school. There's a bunch of people who have gone out. I've probably forgotten many. And now, of course, Russell Crowe lives there, just up in Nana Glen, and he's building a studio in our hometown. So I think it's really interesting. But in those days, there was no one to reference. There had never been a trajectory. And so they were concerned because I was very good at school. And I think they thought that maybe I would be like this, you know, promising young child that you know, wouldn't necessarily live up to their potential if I went down this road. And I understand that. You want the best for your kids and your students. So it was out of protection. But I do think that if you have an entrepreneurial spirit and you're in this business, understanding business is an asset, because we're particularly now when we have the access to more resources, we have access to platforms that we can create our own work through. It's really valuable to have some business inside, I think.
Yeah. I guess it was more the reasons why. I mean, obviously it's 100% a valuable experience, a valuable area to be knowledgeable in, for sure. But I think it's, you know, I think that
the reasons why, Danny, I think, aside from not wanting you to be, they don't want you to be a struggling, starving artist, and they want you to have like real tangible skills that are transferable outside of the industry to make sure that you could always get a job somewhere. But I think that the more sort of irky reason is that some people think that making it is making lots of money. Some people think that success is relative to how much money you make. And I've got to be honest, my dad's like that. My dad is not a rich man. He never has been. In fact, they were quite poor, and he studied really hard and trained in his field of work and started to do much better and better. And there's a very linear career path there, that by doing the training and working hard and getting more experience, you get a promotion, you earn more money, you're more successful, and that's what making it is. That doesn't work here. It doesn't translate necessarily. I mean, there are certain hierarchical steps that we can take, but that could all just drop off the next week. It could be hot one week, not the next, etc. And just because your rate on a film was this, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be the next time. In America, there's this sort of co-star to guest star to semi-reg to series regular, etc. That people try to climb and maintain, and some people are very successful at doing that, and their rates, go up and up and up in line with that. But for me, I wanted to do theatre as well as television and film, live entertainment and hosting. There was no linear path for me at all. I just wanted to do it all. And I didn't care about the money. It's awesome to make money doing what you love. And it's very important. I think it's really important for artists to have some kind of education about money management, because I don't know what the saying is, but the saying is the dancer will always want to dance, will always want to do. You give us an opportunity, I want to do it. And so many actors and so many artists and musicians and, will be taken advantage of, or will work really hard for no real financial reward because they love it. And I think that's something that all of us, need to take a little bit of accountability and responsibility for, and seek advice in. I should be absolutely loaded with what I've heard over the years, and the choices I could have made, but instead I decided, no, I'm going to make my own television pilot. No, I'm going to go to London for 6 weeks and train, rather than buy that property, or invest in those shares, or make sure that 30% of my net income is always put aside, all those little things. That's okay. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. I've had an amazing time. But I do think if you're starting out in your career, you should have a little bit of a financial plan alongside your career plan.
How did, I was actually, that's a stupid question. I was going to ask, how did you get to be savvy about that? You started a business degree. That's a pretty easy question to get.
Well, also, I got savvy about it by falling on my ass broke after. It's like, I've just earned all this money, but why is it that I've got like an overdraft in my account now?
Yeah.
It's because you are impulsive. It's because you think it's going to keep coming, and sometimes it doesn't. It's because you are really generous to a fault, in that you would sometimes rather do this, or give this, and this, than taking care of your own priorities. So I've just learned through failing. It's just how a lot of us learn anything.
I think it was Winston Churchill said that experience is the teacher of all things. So everybody should.
Look, there was one year in London. The global financial crisis hit there very, very hard. And I had held my sort of savings plan at that time. I put in a lot of it into foreign currencies, which was high risk. And then, of course, the ass fell out of that. And I was sitting there without my safety net and without my get out of jail sort of fund. And I was getting no work. Like, shows weren't rehiring. No one was leaving their jobs if they had one. And even I coached television presenters at the London Academy of Media. And even that was like, no one was signing up. So I went for nearly 5 months without any income. Plus, everything that I had behind me was disappearing. And it was Christmas. And I remember I had a coin, like a piggy bank. I emptied it, and I walked all the way from my place in Highbury to Camden in a blizzard because I couldn't afford to put any money on my Oyster card at the time. I walked through this blizzard with these coins to go to the Sainsbury's there because I knew that that Sainsbury's had a coin counter that would give you vouchers to buy food. And I spent every single penny of that on dinner for me and my 3 friends, and it was fabulous. But that's the kind of shit that I would do, which is why I would always end up poor. You know, and you just get to a point in your life where you're like, I don't want that to happen again. So what are the steps that I can make in the future to ensure that, you know, I'm not walking through blizzards with a bag of coins next Christmas?
I think that is the type of wisdom that comes both with age and experience, obviously, because as you said before, you just kind of imagine that it's going to keep coming no matter what. I've definitely been there, and the reason why I'm waiting a year to move to London is because I will not move again without a very healthy bank balance before it happens.
Yeah. And look, London is tough. I mean, I left London after 5 years there. And I was desperate to stay. I was trying everything that I could. The problem was I didn't have any British patriality. I was on a tier 5 visa, trying to get across to a tier 2, but the UK Border Agency kept making that very, very difficult. Every April, there were new restrictions. But that was when, of course, they were part of the EU, and all of the Commonwealth countries became sort of like collateral damage in their immigration policy. So it was hard. I was going to have to get an entrepreneurial visa at one point, which meant raising £250,000 and guaranteeing 2 British nationals a minimum of £18,000 a year full time. I'm like, why do I want to do this just to stay here? And then out of the blue, I won the green card lottery. And it was like, what does this mean? You know? And won it through applying through an agency. I paid them to enter me for 10 years, completely forgot about it. It was the 6th year that I'd been entered. And the woman from the agency called me, and then she started to try and sell me books. So I thought, oh, well, this is a scam. Do I have a case number or something? And she gave it to me, and she gave me the direct number to the Department of State in Kentucky to check it. And the woman in Kentucky was like, yes, ma'am, that is a, yes, ma'am. She didn't say yes, ma'am. She said, yes, sir, I promise. Yes, sir, that is a legitimate case number. And I just went, what does it mean? And I thought, well, people kill for this. I should give this a go. And I chose LA because it's sunny. And after 4 years in London, where, if things aren't going well for you and it's grim, it's tough. Whereas in LA, as opposed to New York, even where everyone thought I would go, because I was working in the West End in theatre, they're like, well, obviously you're going to go to Broadway. I just thought, no, I want to be near the ocean and I want to be in the sunshine. So I moved to LA to see if I could live here, to have a life experience, not necessarily not at all to pursue my career. But I did think, well, I've got a television background, lots of TV gets made, I'm sure I'll get a job of some kind. And within a couple of months, I was working at a television station doing like events and marketing. And within 6 months being there, I was on air as a reporter on one of their flagship shows.
I want to talk a little bit about the moving internationally and I guess you starting out. So obviously you've already said that you started quite young, and you, by the sounds of it, ended up on Home and Away quite early on in your career. Did you, how did you get, I guess, started in the industry once you'd done NIDA and etc.? Did you get an agent and then get them to find something, or did you do a lot of freelance? How did you get your foot in?
No, I got an agent. I had a girlfriend at the time that I moved down to Sydney, although I didn't know it. She actually had another boyfriend, was living with him. And I just knew that she was always working and she had an agent, and I literally called her agent up and said, hi, I'm Nick, I've just moved here from Coffs Harbour. I did state drama camp with Anita, and I know that she's always working, like, could I come in and meet you? I had no idea like how to do it. I had, again, like, I'm from the country, I knew no one. And I met with her agent, and he loved me, and he got me out straight away. And he was not a big agent at all. It was called June Evans Management, June Evans Enterprises. And they were mostly, that agency started with cruise ship entertainment and musical theatre performers. They didn't have much experience with television. And so after I left Home and Away, I did stay with them a little while, but then I had been doing stuff with Mark Morrissey and an agent slash manager that worked with him, Stephen Harmon. He ran a lot of personal appearances for the soap actors that would go out to nightclubs and pose for photos, stuff like that. So I already had a relationship with them. So I ended up going with Mark and a bunch of other agents had sold to a group called Encompass. Well, the group was called AEG, the Artists and Entertainment Group, but the agency was called Encompass, and it was a bid to create Australia's version of CAA, like a power agency, you know, that had like all the top agents from the country, the highest profile artists, but it had a music division, a photography division, a modeling division, a talent development division. Yeah, so it was like your one-stop shop for entertainment talent. And so I went in there and started doing a lot more TV presenting and testing for like more international stuff and things like that. But that kind of fell apart, I think, largely due to, I think, kind of the tall poppy sort of attitude that we have, you know, in Australia. It's like, mega agency? No, we don't do that. Oh, you think you're huge, do you? No, we don't do that. And so unfortunately the business model didn't work, and Mark left. I went with him. I stayed with him for the rest of the time that I was in Australia before I went to the UK.
Really interesting you kind of mentioned that tall poppy syndrome. I think that's really prevalent in Australia and definitely in the industry. I was having a chat with an acting friend yesterday, or Sunday rather. We went for a walk, and I was telling her about a story of someone and how they got started in the industry. And I think in Australia, when it comes to trying to get out there, we have an attitude of knock you down before giving you a chance, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, I think, I definitely have been given chances by people who really encouraged and developed me and mentored me, but most of those people have had international careers as well.
Yeah.
And I think that I would encourage any artist to, at the very least, get out of Australia and maybe do some workshops or training abroad, meet people abroad, see the world, and then come back and appreciate what we have there in Australia. I mean, it can feel a bit like a cottage industry, but we punch well and truly above our weight in Australia. The quality of work that all the practitioners across the board, not just actors, but we have incredible writers and directors and designers and DPs that are in demand all around the world, as well as doing great stuff in Australia. So I'm desperate to come back and do more in Australia. I was lucky enough to do a movie just before I left, and unfortunately, you know, just missed out on doing another one because I had to leave so swiftly. But yeah, working on Australian sets is a dream, and working with Australian talent is amazing. But unfortunately, there is this overarching culture that we inherited from the Brits. So get ready, you're going to experience it over there as well. But we have inherited this tall poppy syndrome that if you talk to anyone who is based in the UK, well, actually, who's based here more importantly, more significantly rather, any Australian that's based over here that's managed to have a career will tell you the same kind of story in some way or another. They felt like they had to leave in order to elevate their life or their career or their artistry. And then, of course, they have some success and they come back and they're celebrated. I don't know why. It's unfortunate, but all I can say is I'm really proud of the Australian talent that I know that have done so well abroad, and that do come back and share what they've learned with other people back home, because that helps everybody.
100%. I think that's really kind of obvious in the industry as well. I think a lot of people feel like we need to leave to get anywhere and actually make something of ourselves. And before we're taken seriously, and then it's, oh, that's an Australian. We want them back because they're a successful Australian. But before you get success, you're not really, I think it's not as often that those chances are given in the industry here until you've already not made it.
I don't know. I think it's also like, it's a can of worms really, Danny, because, some people have amazing careers in Australia and never leave. And you know, I know a bunch of those people who are my peer group and have always been working, and they do really well, and you know, but they've never really left Australia and done anything. They've never risked it because they're like, well, I love living here and my family here, and this place is amazing. And if you can live and work in Australia and have that quality of life, like why would you go and start all over again in the US or the UK? I get it. Yeah.
Why did you move to the UK?
I think I mentioned before, I always imagined myself working on the West End and working in theatre. It was a dream that I had for a long time. And because I didn't have any patriality, the only visa I could get was the youth mobility visa, which was then called a working holiday visa. And you had to get it before you turn 31. You have to have it like by 30th. And, but you know, I met a partner, and she and I were looking at buying a house together and having babies and doing all these things. So it was becoming like very possible that my time was going to pass. And while we were together, I was cast in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, the musical, and my entire life changed. And you know, during the course of that, I'd never even had a gay friend, even though I'd been in show business since I was a child. I was mostly just friends with my school friends, and when I wasn't working, I was at the pub, or I was playing sport, or I was, you know, mostly at the pub. I was at the pub most. But you know, I'd never been to a gay bar. I'd seen a drag show once, and that was by accident because I was using the ATM at the Albury one night with a friend when we were going out. Like, I had never experienced anything like this. Of course, I knew the movie and I loved it. But during the course of Priscilla, I met a man for the first time that I absolutely, like, he blew my mind and rocked my world. And it was the beginning of some big conversations with my then girlfriend slash fiance slash, you know, potential baby mama, that were, you know, you know, there were a lot of big conversations. There was therapy. A Kinsey scale got a lot of airtime from both of us. And it got to a point where I started to feel like I was not living my dream, my life. That, you know, aside from the fact that, hang on, do I really want to marry this woman as much as I love her, have that kid and buy that house in, you know, Waverley or wherever it was going to be, you know, and miss out on going to the UK and seeing and experiencing that, or miss out on exploring the idea of having a relationship with this man or anybody else. And it was really the beginning of a massive period of upheaval. My parents separated at that time as well. My sister and her husband broke up. So all of a sudden it went from like my mum and dad, my sister and her husband, Emily and I, like this family, and, you know, all had like planning Christmases together, to suddenly like the whole thing just like fell apart. And it was, for me, it was like, I went to the UK for refuge, escape, exploration, inspiration. I just wanted to be surrounded by theatre and live music and writing, and that's what I did. And so I intended to go there for the 2 years of that visa and just experience what I could. But then I got there and I never wanted to leave.
Oh. How does that affect the UK? I never wanted to come back, but the recession happened and here I am.
So you came back during the recession. I stayed and you know, tried to tough it on out. And I think also I just really wasn't ready to come home. So it was a fiscal error, but again, it really made me resilient and resourceful. I pivoted madly. I tried all sorts of different things, and I got through it, and I made great friendships that really like withstood some enormous pressure. So I'm incredibly grateful for all of that time. But yeah, didn't make the most sense. But I did it anyway.
The best things in life don't make the most sense, but you just keep going anyway.
Yeah.
So you also spoke a little bit, obviously, in the time in the UK of being out of work and not much coming through, and the peaks and troughs of being an actor. How do you keep yourself, I guess, motivated to keep pushing along in the industry?
Well, I'm, for better or worse, it's just in my DNA.
Okay.
I try, like, I did The Beautiful People, which was this fantastic BBC series that Olivia Colman was in, and I played opposite Dana International, the fantastic trans artist who won Eurovision one year. You know, I did that. I did a new musical. I did the UK premiere of Reuben Guthrie, where I played Reuben. Like, I did some really cool stuff. But to keep my life there, I got sponsored, and I got sponsored by Priscilla the Musical, originally as a brand ambassador, which was going out and like doing group bookers launches and trade shows and corporate events and things in costume. And then I created this promo team once the first cast change happened, and I put together short versions of the shows, and I created this whole new revenue stream. And I started doing an apprenticeship in producing and in promotions and marketing for live theatre. And I started working with the really useful group, which is Andrew Lloyd Webber's company, who are our managing partners, and De Winters, which is the UK like sister company of Spotco. So probably like the biggest marketing company then at the time. And I started to sort of, this whole other side of the industry sort of started to open up to me, and that was really great. So my skill set broadened, and with my skill set broadening, so does your curiosity. And it's like, oh, that's a job? What? You can do that? And as a generally curious person, I mean, those kinds of things are exciting to me, where it's like my skill set's broader, my understanding is broader. I can now see opportunities. I don't have to just wait for the phone to ring, you know, or for, you know, an email to come through from my agent. I can now actually see how I can harness my talents, their talents, etc., and start to create opportunities for myself and for other people. So I started a thing in the UK. Well, first of all, there were the fires and floods in 2009 that were devastating in Australia, and some friends of ours got together and we decided to put on a benefit concert. And we ended up doing it at the Palace Theatre in Cambridge Circus, and we sold that out. There were people around the block, and we had Jason Donovan and the cast of Priscilla, and we had Mark Little, and we had Lee Mee, we had Lorna Luft doing Still Call Australia Home with us and stuff. It was crazy. We had this massive, amazing cast. Rolf Harris. It was before he was found guilty. Anyway, it was an amazing concert. And from there, I created this community, and then I started a thing called Sunday in the Apartment, which was this amazing showcase of Australian talent that I did in conjunction with the Australian High Commission and a Chamber of Commerce, which was then called Australian Business. It's now literally called the Australian UK Chamber of Commerce. I did that for 8 years. Even when I was in LA, I would go back 4 times a year and do that. So that helped me develop my producing skills as well as my hosting skills, writing skills. It gave me an opportunity to leverage something to connect with other people who were artists that were coming in and out of Australia. So gave me a reason to bring Tim Minchin in to perform, or Megan Washington, or Ray Ma, or Caroline O'Connor, or Casey Donovan, you know, all these great people that came when they were touring. And then, of course, people who were just arriving in London, who were emerging artists, they could come and perform alongside them. And it was a great community event too.
So do you think then, for anyone that is, I guess, trying to make it as an actor, you recommend branching out further than just thinking about being an actor?
I would never tell anyone what to do.
What I'm saying.
You know, like, what I mean is, because, you know, look, some people really think that one needs to focus, you know, with really like laser sharp focus on the thing that they want. All I will say that I do know to be true is that having a broader skill set and a broader point of view cannot be harmful when it comes to being an actor. Having an understanding of what other people do on a set can not be harmful, you know. So I think spending time on sets in other capacities is really helpful. There is no roadmap for having a successful acting career. You know, yes, go to class. Yes, read books. Yes, read plays. Yes, watch movies. Yes, you know, keep yourself fit as an actor. Try and stay ready. because those opportunities, you never know when they're going to come. And I've had plenty of them that I've missed because I wasn't in the right place or ready at the right time. But in terms of me giving advice to people about, you know, you should do this, and this, I just, you know, I don't know that I can really do that. I just, you know, here's what has and hasn't worked for me. Take your pick.
Never ever tell anybody what to do, either. Well, depending on what I'm talking about, but for the most part, I would agree with you. But it's always, you know, nice to hear other people's experiences and, as you said, kind of what worked and what didn't. You just mentioned there that there was times. Obviously, you need to keep yourself ready, and there's been times when you've not been ready. What does that? What does not being ready look like to you, and what does kind of deal with that?
Sure, yeah, that's cool. I could go on a little bit of a tangent here. I don't know if you. Well, first of all, not being ready, like for example, not being in shape when you're going out for roles with a particular look, and like, you know, on the back of being in Home and Away, like there were times where they were calling me up and they wanted me to be shirtless, like for whatever reason, going for the roles in musical theatre, and I haven't been taking care of my voice, and they say, we need you to come and sing tomorrow. I'm like, oh, I haven't slept for 2 days, you know, my voice is terrible. Or not learning your shit before you go in. Like, for example, I was working so hard on Priscilla, doing 8 shows a week, plus cover rehearsals, plus press, plus whatever. I was walked straight into Wicked in front of the Americans, and I just had no chance to read the sides and learn the songs properly. So I had everything in my hand in front of the Americans. And I was dropping my words everywhere, and I walked out there and said, I'm so sorry to waste your time. Like, I've never apologized in a rehearsal, in an audition before. And that's one thing I would say, please don't do that, people. Don't ever apologize. Be ready instead. But yeah, I mean, so those are the kinds of things I'm talking about. Like, and there's at times like a feeling of like self-sabotage that has crept in over the years. And I've had some amazing opportunities. I had a 2-year development deal at Fox Studios for my own television show. There was just, I think it was just me and Belinda Emmett and Rove McManus and Julia Zamiro. And I did appearances on every show they developed, and we worked. Margaret Pomerantz was my EP, and we were creating this new show, and it just like 2 years just went round and round and round, never went anywhere. And during that time, like the head of television development had been the previous head of comedy at Fox, and he was like, you should go to Hollywood and do this sitcom and blah, blah, blah. You know, I was very encouraged, but none of these things actually ended up eventuating. Kind of like the record deals that I had from like 97 to like 2002, I was offered record deals, and I was like, oh, no. And then, of course, by the time I got to like 2005, I was desperate to release music. And I did eventually, you know, I did get record deals and I did release a couple of singles, etc. But I've often sat there and gone, why did these certain things work out and these didn't? And that could have blown me up, and then I would have been whatever. And then when I found out that Dita Brummer had passed a couple of months ago, back in August, I was in Queensland. I was doing a movie. I was making a movie with the best people. Look, the movie itself, like, it's a feel-good, fun, like little rom-com. It's not something that's going to, you know, win a bunch of awards or anything like that. But I tell you what joy to turn up every day on that set with these awesome people and do a fun, like, I was playing a gay handyman at a penguin sanctuary who's a singer-songwriter. I mean, what a great role. Like, who's not jumping out of bed every day going, I'm so grateful for this part. And I'm shooting in Queensland in a pandemic when Sydney's locked down. Like, gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. And then I got a call from a publicist asking me for a comment about Dita's passing. Because, you know, even though, I mean, we weren't super close at all. We've been friends, we've known each other for a long time. I kind of replaced him as like the new floppy blonde haired boy on Home and Away after he left. And so in some ways, like, I had seen a lot of myself in him, and also he's a very sensitive soul and funny and brilliant. But I must say, like, I feel that had I ever experienced the level of celebrity that he did, like in Australia and in the UK at that time, and then not, I don't know how I would have handled that. If some of these things that presented themselves to me when I was in my early 20s, before I had any sense of self really, had have taken off in the way that they could have, I don't know if I would be here right now. I really don't. I don't know. And if I was still here, I don't know what kind of person I would be. I suspect probably not the best, you know, because I was so easily led at that point. And I've seen people come to Hollywood who are young and desperate. And it's kind of tragic, and tragic things can happen as a result. So I kind of realized, oh, maybe there was a little less self-sabotage or a little less bad luck. And maybe the universe was actually protecting me a little bit and allowing me to go through all of these things to become a better version of myself, to become a more empathetic person, to become a more resilient person, a more grateful person, and an alive person, someone who still has the opportunity now with everything that they've been through and learned to still do the work. I'm still here. And I'm still doing it, and more grateful than ever.
I mean, it's obviously hindsight is a wonderful thing to look back and now be grateful for those periods of time and what that means for you as a person.
Yeah, but sometimes it was devastating. I mean, the amount of times as a young actor that you sit there and literally value yourself, your self-worth, equating it with your work. Like, I didn't get that job, therefore I am a shit human being. Like, I remember thinking how important, you know, the work was, the profile of the work, who else was involved in the work, or what the work was worth in terms of financially, that sort of directly informed my personal value, my personal currency. And that's something that a lot of people still believe, you know, even at my age and having been in the industry that long. I'm here to tell you it's not. And, you know,
Very
once you
personal life with stuff though, and I've spoken about it so many times on this podcast, just that, you know, ultimately it's not you, it's just circumstance or whatever. How do you've obviously gone through those periods of time. How do you cope with those thoughts of self-sabotage and that you might be a shit actor or whatever? Not, you're not, obviously, but the type of question, the type of things that we tell ourselves. How did you deal with those mental struggles throughout your career?
I think that having a really strong support network of friends and mentors around you is like vital. You can't go through this by yourself. It's really, really difficult. So I think that, you know, you said something before that was about self-talk. That's something that you can control. That's something that each of us can do every day. It's amazing how powerful our own affirmations are. And you've just got to be really keenly aware of that. Make sure that you're being kind to yourself. I think having a understanding about the kind of thing you were talking about before is that you're not going to be right for every single role, even though you could do a great job of it. You could be, you know, but there are also times where when they open that tape or when you walk into a room, that casting director or that director or producer are desperate for you to be that right person. You know, you have to go forward with confidence that every opportunity that's coming your way is coming your way for a good reason. And that could be a lesson rather than necessarily that you're going to book that job. I think for me, I'm really fortunate that my family are on board. I mean, they hadn't always been. my dad couldn't get his head around it for a while until I started to actually make more money than him. Because like I said, that was how he measured success.
I think it's so funny that like, not even just like Australia and the tall poppy thing, but like thinking about how so many people do have the opinion of acting's not a real job, you're not
not a
gonna
real job.
whatever. Yeah, every person that says that will sit in front of the television and watch some fucker on some show every week.
Oh yeah, they're all binging Netflix every, all the way through this pandemic.
Yeah.
I know it is really strange. I don't know if it's because originally we were always called players, and acting is play. I just made that up, by the way. I don't know if there's anything in that. It just sort of came to me, back in the day, and obviously in Shakespearean times, etc.
Yeah.
The troupe were called the players. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's like a hangover from all of that stuff, or maybe it's jealousy. Maybe it's the fact that they have to get up at the same time every morning, go to the same place, do the same shit, and they don't want to believe that we can go and interpret character and stories and play and do all of these things that feel sort of unattainable to them. I don't know. I mean, I do know friends of mine who have had, like when we were in our 20s and 30s, friends of mine who had boyfriends or girlfriends who weren't in the business, and they started hanging out with us, and it was a little bit of a kind of bohemia in Bondi in those days, whereas now it's like full of influencers and people who work in banking and marketing and whatever. Like, but back in the day, back in the 90s when we lived there, the icebergs had acrylic grey carpet and green paint and orange school chairs, and I.L. Larkin from Skunk Hour would play on a Sunday, and you'd have like Barton Lynch and Phil Sobrano and all those like cool guys that you're looking up to. And, the Bondi Hotel was just, drug dealers and bikies and big Maori population. And it was artists and actors and musicians, and it was super cool. So I think, there were friends of mine who had boyfriends and girlfriends that weren't in our business, who would start to get really like envious that you're not getting up at 6:30 to go and do you're staying home and reading with your friend, or you're going to class where you're, and then you booked that commercial and you got $20,000. Like, they couldn't get their head around the sacrifice. They would just think, the commitment that we put into training and developing our skills. All they saw was, you get to have coffee with so-and-so, and all you've done today is go into an office and say words, and then you book this job and you're getting paid all this money. And that became hard for them to get their heads around. So I don't know, maybe it's that. It's a little bit of jealousy.
So after this long, sorry, I keep saying this long in the career, like you're some 75-year-old man.
Close. I'm no spring chicken.
Have you at least, that's the wrong word, is working in the industry now your only source of income?
Yes.
Cool.
That's not entirely true. I do try to do things like now I try and invest in things for passive income and stuff like that, which I think is really important. And that's why I say have a financial plan. You guys like have, just even if it's just a little something on the side, it's better than going out and getting another job. Like, do it, build something on the side as you go. But yes, I only work in this industry, but I don't exclusively work just as an actor. I work as a host. I host a lot of live events. I work as a festival director, as you know, as a producer. I do audio books and voiceovers and narrations. So yeah.
How long in your career journey did it take before you no longer had to work in a pub or in a restaurant or something like that? Or did you never do that? So you've been working in the industry the whole time?
I've had other jobs. like I was the receptionist at SBS Television when I first left school. It's the best job, but like it was kind of in the industry, and it introduced me to, well, not only some amazing people like Margaret, who ended up being a show for me, but I came from the country, and suddenly I was surrounded by people from 68 different language groups. It was mind blowing. It was phenomenal. So yeah, that was my first job. I worked as a switchboard operator, and I kept that job for years. I kept it, like I would take leave without pay and go and act, and then I'd come back and do that. I've done some temp work here and there, you know, like for a week or two. So having those skills was helpful. And there was a while there where I used to wash cars for this stupidly rich friend of mine who owned this massive warehouse, and there were 3 businesses like sort of in the warehouse, and I would go there on a Thursday, and I'd get there at like 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd leave at 6 o'clock, and I would do as many cars as I'd make a fortune. And that was, I just would work that one day, and it was all cash. I've done, yeah, I've done PA work on set.
Well, it sounds like you've had a very varied career.
Yeah, and like I said, I worked in the West End. You know, ended up becoming like a promotions manager and doing sort of top line marketing stuff. So that was not like, it's in the industry, but like I wasn't performing as such. But God, I'm grateful for that apprenticeship, because you know, that's how I'm able to be a festival director. I can understand everything from the logistics to the marketing plan and strategy and ticketing and sales and budgeting and all of those kinds of things, while also still understanding the needs of the artists, etc., that are presenting that show. So yeah, I guess I haven't done restaurants and pubs, no, and I haven't like had my day job, but I've done other things.
What if you, although you don't like telling people what to do, if there was one piece of advice that you could give actors that are starting out and trying to make it, what would it be?
Is there anything else at all that you feel passionate about that you would want to do? Because if there is, go do that. If there's not, then fantastic. I wish you all the very best, because it's not easy. But once you've made that commitment to yourself, have faith, trust, back yourself. You have to be able to back yourself. You have to be able to take risks where you put yourself, you know, nothing great ever came to anyone who took no risks. So I guess, yeah, just back yourself. I guess if you just want one piece of advice, it would be that. If you're going to make that decision, make it, commit, and back yourself, because it's not going to be easy.
Nice.
It just isn't. Even for the people who it looks like it's easy for, it has not been easy.
Well, thank you so much, Nick, for spending some time with me today and sharing your journey.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
I will share all of your social media stuff for people to follow you if they desire. Is there any outstanding performance?
I don't know. I was just thinking, if they desire, they're probably worn out by now.
I don't know. Look, you know, I saw your post. You hit 7,000 on Instagram overnight, so maybe we can get.
Oh, thanks, buddy. No, I look, what I think is really great is that you're having these conversations and sort of demystifying this a little bit in a really comfortable way. You know, in a way with people that you can relate to. It's like, it's all well and good to hear the stories of like megastars and all that kind of stuff, but you know, trying to understand how that guy who grew up in a place like I did is still in the industry and still actually earning a living and doing what they love. Like, you know, we all understand that you've got like that 1% chance of being that megastar, frankly. And I'm not saying this for any other reason than the truth. I have absolutely no ambition to be that megastar that you know, at the sacrifice of my actual personal life. You know, there is somewhere there is somewhere in the scheme of things where you can create your own projects and feel successful and feel grateful and be busy, but still know, I want to take some time off and do this. I want to walk into the supermarket and do that without being hassled. I mean, I remember the first time that girls started chasing me to cut my hair on a train at St. Leonard's Station. I was like, what is this? You know, I want ownership of my life. I want ownership of my artistry. And there's a place somewhere in there where I think that's the kind of happy life that I'm after. So, yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're, it sounds like that's what you're living at the moment. So that's amazing.
Oh, yeah, it's
Awesome.
good.
Well, thank you so much, Nick. And I'm sure I will speak to you again soon.
You sure will. Thanks, Danny. Good luck with everything. Good
Bye.
luck, guys out there.